You can walk into a store right now and buy a pair of brand new 1989 Jordans. They look the same, feel the same. They're literally the same shoe from 1989. So why can't you buy a brand new 1989 car? And I don't mean a retro-looking Beetle or a Fiat 500. Not a Mini with round iPads glued inside. I mean the real thing, a 0-mile AE86, a brand new E46, a factory fresh AP1 S2000. Why can't car companies just build these cars again? Every car forum on the internet has asked this question. Every Instagram comment section under classic car posts is filled with bring it back. But all we get is this. Don't get me wrong, it's a great car, but it's not this. When Nike re-releases Jordans, people go crazy. When Ray-Ban sells the same Clubmasters from the 40s, we call it timeless. When Rolex keeps making the same Submariner decade after decade, nobody asks for a touchscreen. Well, this is a Casio, but even this, the Illuminator, was first made in the 80s, and they still sell it. But try asking a BMW for a brand new E36, and suddenly, it's impossible. Well, is it really though? Let's find out. And I know what you're thinking. Cars have safety laws, emissions, crash testing, that boring legal stuff. And yeah, it's not as simple as slapping an old shell on a modern production line. Car companies love to tell us how regulations kill the classics. We'd love to build your favorite 90s car again, but the government won't let us. Maybe buy this crossover instead? But here's the thing. In the US, the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards has exemptions for low-volume production. Companies building fewer than 5,000 models a year can bypass many modern requirements. And they're even allowed to make up to 325 exact replicas of cars over 25 years old. Europe has similar rules. You know that Caterham still sells a car based on a 1957 design? And what about Morgan? They're still building cars with wooden frames in 2025. These aren't concepts. They're road legal, registered, and sold brand new. Now sure, that's all low volume stuff. And yeah, when you build a few hundred cars a year, they're gonna cost a fortune. That's not what we want. We're talking about real cars for everyone. So the question is, can a car capture that retro charm and analog feel and still meet modern production standards? Well, turns out, yeah, because some brands have already figured out how to do it. And the best example of this? 2 words.
Mazda Miata.
You see, the Miata isn't some low-volume special, it's mass-produced. And yet it stayed remarkably true to its roots for over 30 years. Sure, the styling has evolved, but it's still basically the same size, same weight, same philosophy. And honestly, if they really wanted to, they could probably build the exact same design as the 1989 model. Pop-up headlights aside, of course. Because, well, you know. Yeah, that. Not exactly pedestrian friendly. And you know, I'm not saying Mazda should just copy and paste the old design, but it proves something important. The idea that modern regulations make old school designs impossible just isn't true. People look at cars from this era and say no way that would pass today's safety standards. But if a tiny lightweight Miata can, then pretty much any bigger, more practical car from the 90s could too. And remember the Lotus Elise? It lasted until 2021 with same core DNA it had back in 96. It didn't die because of regulations, it died because Lotus chose to shift towards EVs. So if Mazda can still make the Miata, and Lotus kept the Elise alive for 25 years, I bet BMW could still make the E46 M3. Maybe even E36. Maybe even the E30. So, tell me about your unhealthy attachment to cars that were built before you were born. Look, are we just romanticizing old cars? Maybe, but look at Jordans again. Most buyers today never saw Michael play. The average Jordan customer is 18 to 25 years old with zero memory of those dunks. What Nike understood is that classics become cultural currency, status symbols.
Michael Jordan, hello, are you home?
Just like we don't need to remember the 90s Bulls to want Jordans, we don't need to have owned an AE86 back in the day to understand why it's cool now. You see, car companies abandoned this cultural capital entirely. Which is weird, because if you're not that deep into the classic car world, this might surprise you, but most parts for old cars are still being made, right now, by the original manufacturers. For example, BMW's classic division maintains over 160,000 different components for cars they no longer produce. Honda restarted production of S2000 parts in 2020 due to customer demand. Toyota created the GR Heritage Parts project specifically to reproduce parts for cars like AE86, 2000 GT, and Supra. You know, in theory, with enough time and money, you could order every single part and build a brand new classic car from scratch. Yes, there are components which might be out of production, sure, but even those are often available through the aftermarket or donor cars. So if the production infrastructure exists, if the supply chain is still alive, if the CAD files and the tooling haven't disappeared, why won't they just build the whole damn car again? And that's exactly what I asked BMW. Well, I actually asked them if they ever even considered doing something like that. And they replied, yeah, that's the official word. No remakes, no plans to bring anything back. Just no. Well, they did say they're keeping the past alive, just in a different way. Through design, through details, subtle callbacks to where they came from. So no, they're not building an E30 again, but they are trying to carry the DNA forward. And maybe that's the only realistic option. And honestly, it kinda makes sense. Because even though the parts still exist, the production lines don't. To actually produce something like an E46 again, BMW would need to retool an entire factory. New welding jigs, reprogrammed robots, and assembly stations that match outdated geometry. Even if BMW has the original CAD files, they'd still be re-engineering how those parts get put together. Not because of regulations, but because the factories themselves have evolved. This is why retro-style cars today are usually built on modern platforms, because it's the only way to make the numbers work. So technically, yeah, they could probably build an E46 again, but doing it at scale would mean rebuilding the entire world around it. You see, Nike can remake Jordans because the product hasn't fundamentally changed. The materials are simple, and the production is streamlined. But reissuing old cars, that's a whole different game. It's expensive, complicated, and impractical. Well, at least that's the story they want you to believe, because what if I told you they already are building old cars? Just not for you. Let's start with a car you probably forgot existed. The Peugeot 405, a family sedan from 1987. Long gone in Europe, but in Iran, it was still being built until 2024. Same platform, same body. Just a few modern touches slapped on the dash and some minor tweaks in bumper and trim design. Or how about the Toyota Land Cruiser J70? Launched in 1984. Sure, it has new LED lights, but the overall body is the same it was over 30 years ago. You can't get one in America or Europe, but Australians buy them new today. The Lada Niva, designed in the 70s, still being built right now. And the Chevy Express van, it came out in 1996, received a light facelift in 2003, and then basically froze in time. GM is still building it today. Same shape, same bones. Nearly 30 years with barely a change. Even the Mercedes G-Class. Yeah, it's obvious, but look closer. It launched in 1979. And while Mercedes has evolved it, refined it, added tech, updated powertrains, the core idea hasn't changed. It's still a boxy, body-on-frame truck with the stance and feel of something far older. It's an old soul in a new suit. So what does all that mean? It means that building old cars isn't some wild fantasy. It's business as usual. And think about that contrast. You can't buy a new S2000 anywhere on Earth, but someone in the Middle East can walk into a dealership right now and basically buy a new car designed when Top Gun was still in theaters.
Take my breath away.
The new Peugeot 405 takes your breath away.
Yeah, it really does. So they're willing to build 40-year-old designs for utility vehicles, developing markets, commercial use, but not for driving pleasure. What does that tell you what they think of car enthusiasts? The counter-argument is obvious, right? We are a tiny slice of the market. But are we though? Let's look at the actual numbers. When Toyota dropped the GR Corolla in 2023, people actually bought them. Around 5,500 units in the first year. It might seem like a small number, but that's more than the Lexus LC, BMW 8 Series, or even the Porsche Cayman. When Ford brought back the Bronco in 2021, the reservation website crashed from demand. In 2023 alone, they sold over 105,000 Broncos. Even the manual transmission, supposedly a dying feature, made up over half of BMW M2 sales in 2023. That's not just a signal, that's a statement. Meanwhile, enthusiasts are paying new car prices for old cars every day. Mint S2000s, clean E46 M3s, Factory-grade AE86s?
Hell no, man. What the?
Singer charges over $500,000 for restored 911s and has a wait list. Icon gets more than $200K for rebuilt Land Cruisers and can't build them fast enough. You see, the sneaker comparison is perfect. Vintage Jordan 1s fetch over $20,000 on the secondary market. So what did Nike do? Remake them for $170 and everybody wins. Car companies let all that value escape to restoration shops and auction houses. But some have tested the waters. Porsche built a brand new 993 Turbo in 2018, called Project Gold. It sold for $3.1 million. One car. Jaguar made 6 brand new E-Types in 2014. Aston Martin built 25 continuation DB5s in 2020. You see, the capability exists, and the demand, it's clearly there, even if right now it's only being served to the 1%. Okay, now, listen to this. Imagine walking into a Honda dealership in 2025. On one side, an electric crossover. On the other, a brand new S2000. Or step into a BMW dealership. There's the I-Series, the SUVs, the usual suspects, and there's a new section called BMW Classic. And there it is, a brand new E46 M3. Same silhouette, same stance, same attitude. Now, zoom out a bit, because before these cars can exist in the showroom, they have to survive the boardroom. Now let's say they manage to integrate modern crash structures, airbag systems, even pedestrian safety into the old design. It's not easy, but it's possible, like we already established with the Miata. And then someone asks the million-dollar question.
Excuse me, how do we make that engine pass emissions today?
Because the S54? Legendary, sure, but also kinda dirty. Suddenly you've got engineers sketching workarounds on a whiteboard. Okay, we add direct injection, but now we also need a new cylinder head and a whole new ECU, bigger cats, particulate filters, secondary sensors. We might as well build a whole new engine. And eventually someone just says, should we just drop in one of the engines we already have instead? And honestly, that wouldn't be the worst thing. Would purists cry? Of course. But if that's the price to get the E46 experience back, I'll pass the tissues. So okay, you're back at the dealership, and there it is. Brand new, 0 miles. And it costs $80,000. Not so excited anymore, are you? Look, the original E46 M3 sold for around $45K back in 2001. And guess what that is in today's money? Yep, just over $81,000. And even if, somehow, they could bring it back for $45K, complete with new infotainment, backup cam, 360 cameras, all that modern extras baked in, would people actually buy it? Because some would still say, it's too basic inside, doesn't feel as sharp as the new one. So be honest, would you still want that perfect E46 if it cost more than a new M2? Look at the GR86, light, rear-wheel drive, manual, around $30K. The dream, right? But people still complain it's underpowered, too simple, not nice enough inside. Or take the new Nissan Z, the internet-bagged for a retro manual sports car. Nissan delivered, and yet people called it outdated before it even hit showrooms. So maybe it's not that they can't bring these old cars back. Maybe it's that they know most people won't actually buy them. Or what if that assumption is wrong? Because a new old car isn't the same as a new car that just happens to be simple. One feels like a compromise, the other feels like a statement, a deliberate throwback. Nobody complains that Jordan 1s are less comfortable or not as advanced as the latest sneakers. That's not the point. People want the original design, the attitude, the legacy. They're not comparing them to what's next, they're buying them because of what they represent. So why should cars be any different? Maybe, just maybe, that idea would resonate way more than we think. Because look at what's happened in the past decade. A wave of restorations, resto mods, and reimagined classics. Not just preserving old cars, making them better without losing what made them special. Look at Singer, look at Icon, look at Scion, Tuttle, Alphaholics, Automobili Amos, Chimera, Redux. These aren't niche garage builds anymore. They're movements with waitlists and 6-figure price tags. And beyond the workshops, there's something even more powerful happening online. AI renderings, modern reinterpretations, retrofuturistic design studies. People aren't just fantasizing. They're designing what they wish car companies would build. And millions are watching, sharing, hoping. This isn't just car culture. This is cultural desire for something tactile, simple, real. And no, it's not just nostalgia. I wasn't even born when my E30 came out. What nostalgia? I just love the damn car. It's not about going backwards, it's about going back to what mattered. You can daily a 500 horsepower sedan with adaptive suspension and wireless Apple CarPlay, We're lapping the Nürburgring faster than ever in cars that weigh more than 2 tons. Acceleration isn't impressive anymore, it's expected. And I love that. It's a miracle, and I'm glad I live in a world where this is possible. Let's keep pushing the limits, let's keep innovating. But if that's what performance is now, why isn't every enthusiast driving a Model S Plaid and calling it a day? Because deep down we know performance isn't the point anymore. It's not just about what a car can do, it's about how it makes you feel while doing that. Oh, and by the way, this isn't just about sports cars. What happened to cars that felt like luxury yachts for the road? Big sedans with thin steering wheels, soft suspensions, and interiors that felt like rooms, not cockpits. Today, luxury means a light show and 4 screens, a massage function controlled through 4 submenus. And think about how high-end boats are still built, or classic homes. They're designed to feel timeless, because they prioritize materials, touch, and space. But with cars, we've somehow convinced ourselves that a tablet glued to the dash is the future of everything. So yeah, this isn't just about performance nostalgia, it's about design that made you feel something. And I think car makers know this. Maybe it's not that they can't bring back the past. Maybe they're afraid of what would happen if they did. Maybe they know that bringing back an old car, exactly as it was, might raise uncomfortable questions. About where the magic went, about whether progress always feels like progress behind the wheel. So here's what I want to know. If you could buy any classic car, brand new, from the factory, today, which would it be? Would you actually put down the money? And what compromises would you accept to make it happen? Let me know in the comments, and if this video gets enough traction, maybe, just maybe, someone at one of these car companies will take notice. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.